Hi, this is Chatterboxing. I'm Sean, and I want to talk today about Billy Joe Saunders, Gennady Golovkin, Canelo Alvarez. I made a video at the weekend. Me and Sean talked about Billy Joe Saunders against Golovkin, the actual fight. I want to get a bit more into it today and really focus on the attitude that Billy Joe Saunders has towards the fight. Because in my opinion, a lot of people have the wrong idea about this. It's mostly his fault. I accept that, but I do think that people aren't really seeing the bigger picture and don't really understand the context of how things went down. So I'm going to try and give a different perspective on that today. It started off when he was fighting Chris Eubank Jr. and he made a comment in a press conference in response to Chris Eubank Jr. saying, "Oh, Golovkin could beat you and me in the same night," and everybody's just out like, "What the fuck, mate?" Do you know what I mean? It didn't really. It was an unfortunate choice of words, and it's not really the kind of thing that you want to hear from a fighter. But in my opinion, people have that out of context. A lot of people, that's pretty much all they know about him. Well, I suppose then you had the situation after when he became champion, and apparently Golovkin's team they offered him like $500 billion or something ridiculous. But people heard that comment and then they just went with that and they based everything around that, even though they don't really know anything about him, don't really know anything about his culture, his sense of humour, his personality. So I think it's very important to know quite a lot about people before you write them off or before you just make some judgment based on some soundbite. So I find people do that a lot. I mean, I personally don't do that. I don't listen to someone from, I don't know, let's say, for example, I don't know, Canada. Some bloke from Canada says some comment to do with, and I don't really understand. I don't really know anything about him. And I think, right, that tells me all I need to know about him. I don't really think like that. I like to have a bit more information to go on. So Billy Joe Saunders said this to Chris Eubank Jr. Now, it was an unfortunate thing to say, and I'm sure he regrets it. It did sound bad. I'm not trying to make out that it didn't. But there is a context to it. That entire build-up was about those two really going at each other. Now, at the time, Billy Joe Saunders was British champion. He was 24 years old. He wasn't world level. He wasn't claiming to be the number one in the world. The sort of beef with Eubank started because Chris Eubank is the opposite in that sense. He'll literally just come out with outrageous stuff. I mean, he could basically beat Andre Ward. To be fair, he didn't actually say that himself, but his dad did, and he kind of goes, he could beat everyone. James DeGale's nothing. George Groves wouldn't last 4 rounds, etc., etc. So he made a comment in an interview saying that Billy Joe Saunders wouldn't go like 4 rounds with him or 6 rounds or something like that. At this time, Billy Joe Saunders, I believe, was the British champion. He'd basically beaten all the top people in Britain and Ireland. Chris Eubank had basically fought a load of Eastern Europeans, journeymen who just kind of flown in to get beaten up, basically. So he was kind of talking that, and Billy Joe Saunders took offence to that and started going back. He started coming out with some pretty outrageous stuff about Eubank. Started saying that, if he lost to Eubank, his dad, he wouldn't be able to go back to his camp, to his site where he lives. His dad would beat him with a chain, and mad. He's really kind of putting pressure on himself, talking reckless, really, about Eubank. And as that the press conferences developed, as the build-up developed, there were two kind of quite distinct characters. There was Chris Eubank, who was very kind of high and mighty, who makes very outlandish claims, and he was basically saying that Golovkin wouldn't be able to live with him and this kind of stuff. And this is from a guy whose best win at that point was probably Sergei Nikobalakov. Do you know what I mean? With a record of like sort of 24-10. Do you know what I mean? And he's saying that Golovkin wouldn't be able to beat him and all that. And Chris Eubank, Billy Joe Saunders was coming out with mental stuff, like just talking crazy stuff. And one of the things he said was that to me, that was mainly just to mug off Chris Eubank. Now, in terms of whether he thought that he could beat Golovkin, well, probably not, to be honest, at that point. Or at least he certainly wouldn't have thought that he'd be the favourite. You have to bear in mind, he was 24 years old. He was a British champion. Golovkin was a sort of dominant, unified champion at that point. Was he unified? Yeah, I'm sure he was. I mean, he was the man. He was the number one at middleweight. He was 31, I think. So he was, in his prime. Billy Joe Saunders a little bit younger. And he's always been very honest about it. He's always said that he would like, ideally, when he got his belt, he was quite honest in saying that he would like to physically peak a little bit more, and for Golovkin to kind of dip a little bit. He didn't make any bones about it. I mean, he's just completely honest about it. Whether you respect that or you don't respect that, then that's up to you. But it's all kind of the same. I mean, if you ask, David Haye when he won his belt at heavyweight, if you just said to him, "Are you ready to fight the Klitschko's?" he would have said, "Oh yeah, absolutely." In reality, he wasn't, and he knew deep down he wasn't. But he'd tell you he was. Same with Deontay Wilder. You'd see him, like you say to him, "Are you ready to fight Vitaly Klitschko?" And he would say, "Yeah, I'll fight Vitaly Klitschko tomorrow. I'll knock him out, blah, blah, blah." And then he'll go and fight Jason Gavin. Do you know what I mean? So everybody does it to a certain extent, in my opinion. It's just some people are honest about it. Now, if he was just to come out and say, "Oh no, I'll just never beat Golovkin, he's too good for me," then obviously, yeah, that would be difficult to respect, difficult to take seriously. But when you're saying that maybe I'm a little bit too young, I haven't quite peaked yet, and he's a bit too good at the moment, he's in his peak, so ideally I would like to kind of even it up a little bit, and then I feel like a good chance of beating him. I think that's what it was, personally. Look at Canelo Alvarez, basically tells him to come in the ring, tells him, "Oh, I'll put the gloves on right now," and then goes and fights Amir Khan. And then after that, gives up his belt. So, what do you prefer? People to just talk bollocks and sort of say that they can do it and have no intention of doing it, or someone to just be, completely honest? I mean, that's up for everyone to decide, isn't it? I mean, people have got their own preferences. I'm not saying that I want to hear people, just coming out saying, "Oh no, I can't, I'm not good enough for this." But when you've got someone basically saying, "I don't think I'm quite ready for that yet," I think that it's been blown out of proportion. Personally, I think this particular soundbite has given people a distorted view of how he sees the fight, or how he sees that challenge, let's put it like that. So I think he definitely does want the fight now. I think he wanted to. I mean, he's had an unfortunate year, hasn't he? He hasn't really done much. Now, I'm not really sure why. I think possibly promotional issues, possibly just being out of shape, being lazy. I don't really know. Waiting for a big fight, who knows? But I think this has a lot to do now when he's saying about this sort of deadline for fighting Golovkin. Now, in terms of actual deadline, I think deadline might be a bit over the top. Saying, "Oh, it's got to be done by this time." But at the same time, I can understand him wanting to get something at least verbally agreed, because you've got this whole Golovkin-Canelo situation going on, like what's going to go on, what's not going to go on. So he's been out of the year. He's fought once since winning the title against Andy Lee. He fought Akabov, somebody that we don't really know. Just because we don't know who he is doesn't mean he's not good, by the way. I mean, I'm not saying that he's one of the best in the world, but he looked pretty decent to me, and it was a very, very close fight. Either way, that wasn't a particularly impressive performance of Billy Joe Saunders, and that wasn't the level that we've seen him perform at in the past. Now, I've been watching his whole career, and in my opinion, he's a very underrated fighter. He's an Olympian. He's basically came like a British champion, European champion, Commonwealth champion, now world champion. I think he got the bronze medal, didn't he, in the Olympics, if I'm not mistaken? I don't remember, actually, but he was in the Olympics. We've seen him perform a lot better. And having that year out the ring obviously did him no favours. He's not the kind of person who's lives in the gym. He's no Mayweather, Klitschko kind of character. He needs an objective to be in there. And I think, from his point of view, he's thinking, look, I don't want to be messed around and all of a sudden Golovkin just think, right, I'm going to fight Canelo because it's more money. I I think he's saying, I'm willing to go to Kazakhstan. I'll accept the money. This is like the big fight, but I want to know, because if not, I don't want to mess around and waste even more time. And I don't really see a problem with that. If he's being, we can argue about the specific dates and stuff like that, but I definitely think he's not wrong when he's saying, I want to be clear on what's going on, because it's obviously Canelo Golovkin situation hanging over them, hanging around. So he wants to get it addressed, because if not, he needs to know what else he can do, because otherwise potentially he's going to be hanging around again for a long time. And he hasn't fought for like a year, so that's how he earns his money. He needs to make money, so he wants to fight someone who's going to make a bit of money fighting. So yeah, in terms of that fight, I don't see why that shouldn't be accepted. And unless there's funny business going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. But from Golovkin's side, yeah, he's just been in like 2 tough fights back to back. He doesn't need to be doing the negotiating. Tom Loeffler or his team can just have some kind of verbal agreement. I mean, this is what they've always wanted. They've always wanted to unify the titles. Kazakhstan, I know it's some, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's some kind of festival out there. It's going to coincide perfectly with something, so it'll be a perfect like showcase fight against Billy Joe Saunders to unify the titles, homecoming fight, national hero. I mean, what is there to not like about that? Do you know what I mean? So I really don't understand what the problem is in getting that sorted as soon as possible, at least verbally agreed, and then they can hammer out the details of the contract. In terms of Canelo, now I do understand that that's obviously a bigger money fight. This is like prize fighting, but at the end of the day, I don't really. I'll just tell you as a fan, as a fan, that the Canelo Golovkin, people talk about now, Canelo's made this offer and Golovkin has to accept it and blah blah blah. Well, from my point of view, as a boxing fan, Canelo had an opportunity to fight Golovkin and he bottled it. He didn't want to know. He gave up his belt and then went running back to 154 pounds to cherry pick the weakest of the champions. I mean, no disrespect to Liam Smith, he put on a brave effort and he did. He gave a good account of himself, and he's by no means a bum, but he wasn't the best option at 154. Not financially, not in terms of difficulty. He gave up his belt after talking a big game, and then went down to 154 pounds to fight Liam Smith, and now he's going up to 164.5 to fight Chavez Jr. So Golovkin has nothing to prove by fighting Canelo, in my opinion. Canelo needs to fight Golovkin to get his name back. You can call me naive or whatever, talk about sort of business. I understand business, you know what I mean? I'm not talking about business, I'm talking about my perspective as a boxing fan. Golovkin's got nothing to prove to Canelo. Canelo shit himself, gave up his belt, oh sorry mate, I don't want any trouble, and then went and sort of picked on someone smaller. So that's how I see it. You can talk about, like this sort of, it's more money than he's ever made. That's all it is to me now. Like, it's a money fight. So if he's going to fight Golovkin, Canelo, it's a money fight. He's already made him shit himself, gave up his reputation, embarrassed himself. So, do you know what I mean? What's the fight for? I mean, Canelo hasn't done anything at middleweight. Danny Jacobs was a much tougher challenge. Billy Joe Saunders, I mean, styles make fights, don't they? I think, we don't know, but like, what's Canelo done at middleweight? I mean, he fought 2 catchweight fights, didn't he? One went to Miguel Cotto, who was at his best at light welterweight, and how old was Cotto when they fought? About 40 odd, I don't know exactly how old, but well past his best, taking loads of beatings, much smaller, much older. He went like life and death with him, really. Then he fought Amir Khan. I've seen Amir Khan get like put on his ass by British level lightweights. Seen him get sparked out by lightweights. Was it lightweight British? Yeah, I think it was. Do you know what I mean? And he's taking him on at 155 pounds. I mean, if you take away all the hype, who is Canelo at middleweight? It comes down to money. So if it does come down to money, then yeah, it's a money fight. Make as much money as you can from it. But apart from that, I don't really see it as a particularly exciting. Maybe it'd be a good fight. I'm not saying Canelo's not a good fighter, but he's not. According to him, he's not a middleweight. He certainly hasn't proven anything at middleweight. So I don't see him being as tough a challenge as Danny Jacobs at all. I mean, they're saying as well that I've heard some people saying, "Oh, after watching the Danny Jacobs fight, Canelo would beat him easily." I mean, what are you talking about? Canelo Alvarez and Danny Jacobs are completely different. Danny Jacobs is big, like taller. I mean, Canelo might be bigger than Golovkin in terms of like he might weigh a bit more, he might have a bigger frame. Probably similar. I'd say Canelo's slightly bigger, but there's not much in it. But Danny Jacobs is a lot taller. He's got a lot longer reach. He's got much better feet than Canelo, much quicker on his feet. Punches much harder. He was able to have a very competitive fight with Canelo Golovkin. Some people thought he won. Personally, I didn't, but it was close. I don't see Canelo being able to do that at all. He's not going to be able to fight on the back foot like Jacobs did and hit him as hard and keep Golovkin off him like that. I don't see it. Yeah, he'll be able to do other stuff. We don't know. He's good at what he does. He's got very good upper body movement. He's got good head movement, and he's got very fast hand, good combination puncher. But he doesn't have the same style or attributes that Danny Jacobs has. So for you to watch that and then say, oh, now this bloke who's completely different, completely unproven, because let's be honest, he's unproven at middleweight. Danny Jacobs had he knocked out pretty much everyone. I mean, he had a similar knockout ratio to Golovkin. If you're telling me that you think Canelo hits harder than Danny Jacobs, I mean, based on what? I mean, because he sort of knocked out a few people who are smaller than him, really. I mean, I haven't seen any evidence of that. So, yeah, I don't see that at all. I see the fight with Canelo. I don't think that Canelo and that particularly wanted to make the fight. Nothing they've done has shown me that they are. I know there are a lot of people out there who believe what they want to believe. So when this happened with Canelo giving up his belt, he embarrassed a lot of people. So he had obviously a lot of people didn't like that. Now, I speak to quite a few Mexican fans on Facebook. I'm on a couple of Facebook groups. One of them, Boxeo Contra Golpes, a Spanish page. And generally, the Mexicans in Mexico were well pissed off and well embarrassed by that. I think in the United States, there's quite a few Mexicans who still support Canelo. So a lot of these characters believe what they want to believe. And obviously, Golovkin has a lot of haters. So again, they believe anything to kind of, yeah, okay, brilliant. And they're on that. So you're going to have people who are going to come out with this nonsense that somehow Golovkin is sort of ducking Canelo and he has to prove himself. Total bollocks. Absolute bollocks. He should fight Billy Joe Saunders in Kazakhstan. If he can beat that, if he can win that, which I think he will, then he'll be unified champion. And then if he wants to make a money fight with Canelo, it's up to them to agree to. I don't care who makes what money, but there's no pressure on Golovkin to bow to any demands as far as I'm concerned. Only if he just literally wants to sell out and make money, that's up to him. People do what they want. But as a boxing fan, there's no pressure on him. There certainly shouldn't be any pressure on him to just sort of bow down to this bloke who just sort of bottled a fight with you and then sort of went off to another division. And now somehow you've got to bow to his demands and sort of honour he's the A side because he's got a load of people watching him on paper. Well, you know what I mean? Whatever. If that's what it is, yeah, all right. You want to sort of take your money. It's like being paid to do a job, isn't it? I mean, but in terms of as a fan, as a fighter, then yeah, nothing to prove to me fighting Canelo. If Canelo, I mean, now he's fighting what's his name, Julio Cesar Chavez, which I actually think is going to be quite a good fight. And I think it's obviously it's going to be a good pay-per-view fight. Lots of Mexicans are going to watch Cinco de Mayo. Lots of people are going to be watching it. It's going to be competitive. There's a lot of needle between them. There's history between the sort of families. So yeah, I mean, it definitely feel like the Mexican is going to be interesting, and it will sell a lot. So I suppose they'll come back to that now, saying, "Oh, look at these pay-per-view numbers and blah blah blah." So it's always going to be like that in terms of the pay-per-view. So yeah, that's why I personally just wouldn't really bother with it if I was him. I just think, well, fuck off, mate. Do you know what I mean? I can make money. I'm selling my fights all around the world. I'm going to fight Billy Joe Saunders in Kazakhstan. There's loads of people I can fight. I don't need to basically be treated like a mug by someone that I've already mugged off. You know, that's how I see it. Maybe well, it's not naive. That's just up to me. Innit? Everyone can think what they want. If he sort of sees, no, it's okay. I'll just sort of take this money off him and whatever. But the Billy Joe Saunders fight, I don't see any reason why that can't be agreed. And if it does happen, I definitely don't think that Billy Joe Saunders is going to go in there and lie down. So if you're going to think that, he made this comment like 3 years ago to Chris Eubank, I think you should understand the context. I think you should understand the type of personality and the type of sense of humour that Billy Joe Saunders has, and also the culture he's from. I'm not sure if he's a gypsy or he's a traveller. He's one of the two, but both of them, their culture is. I mean, I know, like, I grew up with loads of them. They're proud people, proud fighting people. There's no way he's going to be in that community, just basically like avoiding a fight, thinking, oh, I'm too scared to fight this person, and I'm being able to live in that community like that. No way. So that's why I'm convinced that he does want to fight, because I think he doesn't like the idea that people think he's ducked Golovkin or he's scared or something. I don't think he can live with that at all. People could disagree with that if they want, but that's my assessment based on understanding, well, to a certain extent, understanding his personality, his sense of humour, the context of how it was said, and the culture that he comes from. You know, I'm not basing it on some soundbite that he said once 3 years ago in the middle of an argument. So if the fight does get made, I think it will be competitive. I'd definitely edge Golovkin to edge. I'll definitely pick Golovkin to win stylistically, but I do think Billy Joe Saunders will make it a lot more difficult than people think, and he definitely won't go in there to lie down. No, I can't see that at all. So yeah, hopefully that fight gets made. To me, that's the obvious one for both of them. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say really. It's been a bit longer than I hoped, this video, but I had quite a few things to say. So yeah, let me know what you think about what I've said, and thank you very much for watching.